Hello, friends. It's us, Tiff,
and Sarah,
bringing you Conversations in a Jar, where we pull random topics to get the conversation started.
Okay.
All right.
Hey, happy Friday.
Happy Friday.
How you been?
I'm good. It's a beautiful day. Can't wait to get out in it.
We've had such beautiful weather. It's like summer. 71, 72 today.
Wow, that's pretty good.
I know.
I might sweat today.
Yeah, you're in a long sleep.
I'm cold.
Okay.
Currently very cold.
Well, your home is,
freezing.
Kind of. My toes are cold. Yeah, I need my slippers.
Do you really?
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad you're cold. I'm always cold. Me too.
Except for when I have hot flashes, because that's starting.
Nice.
That's fun.
Your own personal summer.
Yeah.
That's okay.
My mom used to call them. She's done now.
Gosh.
But personal summers. Yeah.
We should put that topic in the jar.
Absolutely. Add it to the list.
We should. Speaking of, I want to remind you guys that we have an email.
Yes.
conversationsinAjar@gmail.com.
Yes.
We would love to hear from you guys. Feel free to ask us anything. We'll throw it in the jar.
Yeah, put a topic. If you want to add a topic to the jar, email us. You can also DM us on Instagram.
So when you email us your topics that you want to add to the jar at conversationsinAjar@gmail.com, we will write that topic down and add it to the jar and randomly pull it.
Yes.
So feel free to join us. We would love to hear from you.
Yeah, and we're actually going to start because they're starting to come in onesie twosies. So we're going to put together a jar that is listener topics, and then once a month that will be our topic.
It'll be a
listener topic. So hopefully more current event kind of things going on and not just what we thought of would be a good conversation starter.
Fair. And we'd love to hear from you. And then you guys can hear our thoughts on that stuff. A little scary, but also a little fun. So
also subscribe.
Please
tell your friends.
Subscribe.
Okay.
We're at 75. Can we get a 76er? Can we get a 76? No, I'm just kidding. Okay, should we draw?
Yes.
All right, let's go.
Let's do it. Okay. All right. Is it a good one?
They're all good, Sarah.
They're all good. The then versus now woman.
Ooh, let's go.
Yeah.
So
where does your brain go?
Then versus now would be how were women back in the day versus how are women now.
Mm-hmm. Yep. That's where my brain
goes. How far have we gone? How far do we still need to go?
How far are we going backwards? No.
Sometimes.
Yeah. I think.
Oh, this is a good topic. Woo! Okay, so the then versus now. I don't know. There's so many. I'm flooded with things.
Well, I feel like it kind of leans into where families have gone to, we were, let's say, then I'm thinking, I don't know, 50s, 60s. That would be my grandmother's when she was raising her family. Mm-hmm. Okay, so that's then. Anything before that, those people aren't alive anymore.
Yeah, and we only know about them in history.
Right,
it wasn't as close to our experiences as like.
Yeah, so do you want to kind of that then? Is that our then?
I think that then's good.
Okay.
I think going from our grandmothers, our great grandmothers' experiences, that might be a little too far back. But, gosh, the evolution of women it's wild because we're still growing.
Yeah.
And we're still.
The definition of woman is like in
different
question now too. Yeah.
Yeah, that's hard. That's a whole nother subject.
Yeah.
I feel
that's why my brain just like goes crazy. I don't think my biggest thing when I'm thinking about this is the then, right? The expectations, this kind of goes right into the alpha.
That's where I was going to go. I was going to go to that. How were women then? What was their expectation? Uh-huh. What did people and society see them as? What was the purpose that society put on them? How were they, for lack of better words, I hate the word, how were they allowed to show up? But expected, thank you, to show up. It's different than very different than now, but let's start with that. I
Well,
mean,
I
home
feel like-
bakers, staying home with kids.
Yeah.
If you worked, that wasn't cool, but some had to. Like that was the kind of the starting of it,
Yeah.
or that traditional household of the whole
Mhm.
leave it to Beaver.
Yeah. I think thinking back to, I know my mom has shared lots of stories of how she grew up and how it was very different than some of her friends and and I think the 60s really is a big shift of when things started changing a little bit of what women started going into the workforce and that started looking different then, and obviously equal rights and equal pay, and that was when that was glaringly
I'm not one to correct you. Obvious. It
what
was
is the
there.
word? Glaringly obvious, but
Blatantly
obvious that the inequalities of women going to work and the positions available to them.
And why did that
different.
start? Wasn't it a war? Weren't we in the Cold War or something? And that's when men were
Well,
gone and women had to provide at that point.
World War II would have been when women went into the workforce and stuff like that. So that would have been the 40s, right?
That would have been the 40s. But
Yeah.
I think we kind of, I mean, we watched the Leave It to Beaver shows, and then we watched like even the Brady Bunch, where they made blended families look cool. They made it look so easy.
Well, but I also think like those right? There were 6 kids in that house.
Yeah.
My mom grew up, and my dad grew up. There was like 6, 7, 8 kids in the homes where my parents' where they grew
when
up.
they were kids.
Yeah, I've got lots of aunts and uncles.
I don't see
I've got a ton. Yeah,
I don't have that growing up. I mean,
Josh doesn't either.
Yeah,
Josh had his mom's an only child, grew up an only child, and has found siblings now, but grew up an only child, and then his dad had one sister growing up. So much smaller families than what my grandma was a good old Catholic woman. Lots of babies. And yeah, I think the evolution of what my grandma, because my grandma didn't always work. She had a job sometimes, you know?
Well, let's talk about that era. Like, I think about my grandma, my mom's mom, was married a few times. I know there were stints where she was single, hottie. So there was dating. So my grandmother dated.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And my mom doesn't have any siblings that are like I have a sister, but I hate even saying this because she's like a piece of my rib, but we're very close. We have different mothers.
Yeah.
My mom has a sibling, different dads, obviously.
Okay.
And my grandma always worked, and she always like afforded everything on her own. So whenever a guy came into her life, it was her house, her ship, her shit, and dated. So my mom grew up watching her mom date. Few husbands would cycle through, and then when those husbands, so I think that was so vastly different from my dad's mom, who was married to my grandpa her entire life.
Yeah.
Had my dad, his brother, and his sister. So we had 2 siblings. And then my grandma did work, and so did my grandpa, but they had those jobs where they had a pension later, and they had worked there their whole life.
Yeah.
But my grandmother worked all of that, but that isn't what I remember the most about her. I remember her being in the household, cooking all of the meals. Every kid in the neighborhood came over. She tended to her garden. She dressed to the nines. She was a beautiful woman. And as a kid, I didn't even remember, because she was like 9 to 5 home. So anytime I experienced any type of time with her, she was always so present. Yeah. And did embody that I'm a woman. I can do everything. I can be traditional, and I can also be independent and work for myself. So for me, I was like, oh, then my mom's mom, being the little hottie, floating around, going country western dancing, having all these guys fall all over her, not having any type of steady relationship in the household. And so two very different women that's the next in line from mom. Like when you're not looking at mom, you're looking at those two ladies for me. So I saw both of that. And I think that was really confusing for me because my dad's mom was what we would consider very traditional, stuck in her values. Listen, I mean, she could do everything. She did everything, the gardening, the cook, like all of it, and never skipped a beat, and was just had this really high-pitched voice where she talked like this, and she'd be like, do I need to fix you a hot plate? And just a Southern woman, like rounded out all of it.
Yeah.
And then my mom's mom, it was like the women we see on television a lot, where you've got the hot mom and the
I'm not a regular mom. I'm a cool mom.
Yeah, you know. But then that wasn't.
Yeah.
That was very edgy for my grandma to be that way. It was very like, I think when we think of grandmas, they're not allowed to be sexy and hot and have nice figures. We see grandmas as like that wholesome person that when they hug you, that's all you need in the world.
I feel like that they are of the generation that when it shifted.
That's my point. Yeah.
Our grandmothers are the generation where it all started to shift. And then, so then our mothers are fully in the workforce. I mean, my mom, we were blessed to have my mom at home with us until both my sister and I were at school all day, full day at school. And then my mom went and worked full time ever since I was first grade, right? Kindergarten wasn't full day back then. And then seeing that moving forward, that juggle, because this is what I think of, is that women entered the workforce, but still with all the expectations of everything before them.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
It's still like that.
And I feel like it kind of makes me think back to the beta I have so many other thoughts for that.
Same.
Alpha versus
I
beta
know.
man. Could have gone on like
forever
more on that. Yeah. And but now looking at women, I know there's a big heavy mental load that women carry, and I don't know that I feel like a lot of it I put on myself. I don't know if you feel that way, like you put that on yourself. I don't know that men maybe understand what that mental load is that women are carrying, because that hasn't really ever been on them generationally.
I feel like men's only expectation was work. If the kids have games, you better show up. This is from a man. But you work, you show up to your kid events, and you need to be there for the holidays. Yeah. I feel like they got to do and kind of do whatever they want. Whereas women, we're moms. And I there's such an expectation that naturally comes with that.
Yeah.
No one can do what moms do. No one fills that void or can check those boxes like a mom. No one thinks, or just a woman, not to discriminate, but like, there are things that we think about that I don't think guys even like the one strawberry.
Right.
It's true.
Yeah.
You know exactly how much your son eats, and you know there's nothing, don't add no more.
One strawberry.
Yeah. Why do we think about that? Yeah. Greg would be like throwing some shit in there and be like, whatever you don't eat, we'll put in a Tupperware. Right. You know, they're so simple. Yeah. There's nothing wrong with that.
Why don't we just do that?
We make it hard on ourselves to play to your point of, we say it again, we put a mental load on ourselves.
Yeah.
But then again, like, I don't know if we have the permission, nor do we know how to give ourselves the permission to back up and say, I don't know how to woosah. I don't know how to like there's so many things that need to get done.
Yeah.
And so many things I'm responsible for, and so many things that I think I'm responsible for that I'm probably not, but I do it anyways because
yeah.
I just need to be.
I got a question.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
On your phone, do you have like multiple on your like internet browser? Is there multiple tabs open?
No.
No?
Sometimes there can be, but I like clear them out.
You do. Okay.
You talking about it like at work? I always have multiple tabs up.
Yeah. No, I mean
my
on
phone.
your phone. On your phone.
Sometimes.
Because Josh had on his phone is like 3 tabs is like crazy open for him. Like he's always cleared up.
Yeah, same.
And his emails are all like, and my phone, like you would die if you saw how many tabs I have in my phone.
Okay, well now we're not talking about the then versus
no.
now when we're talking about you and Greg. That's Greg. Greg has 499 text messages never read, 4,999 emails never read.
Okay.
And he doesn't erase them. They're like ads or like not. But that's how he me, if I have any text messages, the little bubble bump, I'm like, I got to get into that. I can't. And I don't have lots of tabs open.
This is why I ask, because we're so opposite. Because I was thinking this is like a woman thing versus man thing. And it's not, obviously, because you and Josh, shocker, are more like where you guys are all cleared up and...
There we go, Josh.
And like, and Greg and I
now you can
have
high five
everything. High five, Greg. Where Greg and I, we're more like I have like every tab open because I don't know if I need to go back to it. Like I'm not ready to clear it all out yet and get emotionally attached
weird.
to my tabs.
I get that way sometimes, but then I'm like, I don't need that. Let it go. Go. So I'll have maybe 3 browsers open. That's because I was looking up a time and then maybe I had to schedule a dinner or a meeting or then I had to go do that. But then once those things are done, I'm like out. 387 tabs, Sarah?
That's pretty low for me, actually. I cleared some out the other day. They max you at 500. Your phone will not function, will not let you open another one at 500.
Wow.
I think 499 is like...
That's insane. I remember Greg's iPad before he got a new one, his browsers, he had so many up that to close them, we were going 7 years back.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, not to me. That would drive me absolutely. No.
There's some things on there that I just don't want, like a grandmother's obituary I have open, and I won't close that.
Okay. You feel you're going to lose the link?
Yeah, something.
Can you just pin it to your phone?
I don't know how to do all that. We're all way off topic.
Yeah, but.
And I was curious because it feels like as a mom, as a woman, I shouldn't say mom because I'm sure women are carrying this load in general when it comes to balancing and juggling everything that we have to do in life. I know as moms, I feel like when you give birth, it's like all of a sudden you grow an extra arm and another brain because you're just doing so many other things.
Yeah.
But just in life in general, as a woman, you are considering so many things. How you are presenting yourself in the world.
How you look.
Yeah. And
that's huge.
Balancing job, balancing social life, but I do think those are things
dating, marriage
are also looking at as well, but it's so different.
Do you think that looks were as important then as they are now?
More back then, I think.
Yeah, I think we were a lot less liberal. Women had to present themselves, put together the corsets, not like having the dresses. There was no way a woman back in the day.
What back in the day? Corsets?
Could I don't know. Bridgerton always comes to mind because I'm a horny bastard. But I just think about the extent in which women have had to get ready to show up in the world to be a respectable woman that would attract a mate. Because like you think about just the evolution of women and all the fucking work we have to do to just make sure we look the part, whatever that is. And and honestly, if we're really being honest, looking the part means how do we get a rise in this boy's trousers that we like?
That is not ever something I'm aiming for, by the way.
Well, I mean, that's a good indicator that you're doing something right. I'm just saying. But then why do we do it?
I don't dress, honest to God.
Why do we dress that way?
For other women because they're the ones looking at me and judging me. I don't dress for men.
I dress for me.
That would be the goal.
I dress for fucking me.
That would be when I'm feeling more enlightened. But typically I'm like, ugh, you know, I'm going to show up my best when I have a meeting with my powerhouse mamas.
Okay, so this is another this is a good, let's keep going that way.
Okay.
It's funny you should say you look that way for other women, because I do think that as mean as women are, and we fucking are to each other, where we are jealous, judgy, another woman walks in the room that's hotter, you either have half the room that's like, fuck that bitch, or the other half of the room that's like, oh my God. And then you have the very small percentage of women that will go up to that woman and be like, you're a hot bitch, you should know that. Right? So we are also in competition with each other. And we also feel like we have a due diligence to show up as a bad bitch for other women.
Yeah.
Because we do take pride in ourselves of like waking up and looking nice. But where did that come from? Like, I think the thing for me is there's so much pressure put on women about how we fucking look. And we've got to do this and we've got to do that. And we can't be proud of our stretch marks. We can't have mommy titties. We can't have a little fucking, you know, I'm covered in stretch marks on my body from having children. Mm-hmm. I should be rejoicing that my body could fucking do that. And instead I'm like, how many creams can I rub on my body to make it look like I didn't have kids? And that's so sad when you say it out loud. Yeah. But that's what it feels like to be a fucking woman.
Yes.
I mean, when someone is like, Tiff, you look so good. I'm like, remember this fucking outfit. Was I sucking in? Was I breathing? What was I doing?
Yeah.
I don't know a guy that's like, how do you look from the side? Are my eyebrows straight? Like, do you think she'll like my eye color? What about my penis? Do you think that do you think I should shave down there or should I just let the bush go wild? Because clearly like men don't even have the same thought process that women do just to get ready. Like we're in the shower. Let's talk about women then versus now. We have so much stuff we have to get done a day. For example, if I'm in the shower, there's a sponge in there. So I'm like cleaning it as my conditioner setting. Yeah. Then I'm shaving and I'm rinsing that down so it doesn't stick on the side. I'm trying to be, guys, fucking Greg will cut his toenails and shave his bush over the toilet. And you know how I know he did it? Because it's still in there.
Okay.
It's still in there. It's all over the toilet. They don't care. We would be mortified.
If anyone saw any evidence of us.
We would be like, oh my God, they can't know that I let it grow out that big. And then he doesn't care.
Was dating Josh, like he could not know that I pooped.
Oh, fuck that.
For a long time. Like we were probably married.
You're like, I don't do that. I wouldn't have that laser removed the poop.
Yeah, before I admitted. And he never knew because I can poop in 2.3 seconds. But he would never know. And it was like, I feel like we had to have been married 5 years or something. I think it was when I was pregnant. And I'm like, I don't have the energy to hide this anymore.
Wow, Sarah, I've never experienced that. I think I've pooped with the door open with you.
Yeah, it's different with girls.
Is it? I don't really do that with my girlfriends, but like,
I never close the door.
Yeah, I don't close the door.
Just 10 minutes ago, I peed with the door wide open.
Yeah, that's true.
We were in the middle of a conversation.
You're still taller than me when you sit down on the toilet. I noticed that from afar. I'm like, wow. Why are you taller than me sitting on the toilet? This is bullshit.
I was born that way.
I need to grow. Something needs to happen. But these are good conversations because I don't think that. And then when girls fight, or when we are in our feelings about something, and then if the same thing were to happen with a guy, they'd be like, "This wasn't cool. You weren't cool. Why'd you do this? I did it because of this. Oh, that makes sense. Well, fuck you. Well, fuck you too. Okay, let's be friends. Want to have a beer? Yeah, let's go to Topgolf. Cool, bye. Done." Right. Girls are like, fuck no. You're not going to my fucking wedding. You will never, ever see the light of day on my fucking baby. You can't even come to my house. I want my fucking shirt back.
Yeah.
Here's your picture, face down, can't look like we go to the nines.
It's ego. It's
ego, but do you feel like when you're talking about the then versus now woman, right? We do make, and to your point, we make things harder on ourselves because we don't play nice in the fucking sandbox.
Here's the thing. What I think. Comparison is the thief of joy.
Mm-hmm.
And with social media growing, now we're all comparing to, that wasn't on
Mm-hmm.
the docket in the 60s. There was no social media. We weren't comparing this household to this household to this household.
I think we were.
But it was, you were invited to a dinner party and then you saw Sally's new china and you want it too now. Or, right? Like,
I think it's the same. It just shows up different because we've evolved.
Did you watch the 1923?
Absolutely.
Thank you. Yeah. Okay. When she was like, oh, so-and-so has a phone in her house or has an icebox, a freezer in her house, a bathroom, whatever.
Or water came from the shower head and they were like, oh my God. Yeah.
Have you ever seen water come inside the house like this? So those were that, it's word of mouth. That's how it happened. And then, well, they have that. I want that. It's human nature, honestly, that it's the devil, really. And I think social media has just made it a lot more accessible, that information about other people. And we're always wanting to, hopefully it's because you're always wanting the best version of you and the best version of whatever you can have around you. But I don't know that that's, where's the lid, right? You're only going to be as good as the lid of the room, the lid of your community. And so it is good. It's pushing people forward and being their better selves.
Yeah.
I think it was Joe Rogan. I was just listening to, was it Joe Rogan? They were saying how the millennials versus Gen Z and how like Gen Z is like by a lot doesn't drink or party as much. They're much more health conscious. No, it wasn't. It was Dax Shepard.
But that's because, okay, so here's something that came to mind. I love this saying, why be a lady when you can be a legend? And I think about that. And I think about how like that embodies the evolution of women. It used to be, you need to be a lady, prim and proper. They used to have mannerism classes, always eat from left to right. I don't know. I learned that in the Titanic.
Cotillion, yeah.
But there were a lot more, like there's beauty pageants. There's no male beauty pageants. So we're always in competition with each other. But women have this expectation that they need to show up looking like a woman. You've got to be dressed to the nines. And I think that plays a lot into the insecurities of women. We can't just take a shower, put clothes on, and us be okay. Women that can do that, awesome. Do I do that if I'm running a Costco? Yeah, but that's not considered our best.
Right.
And so then why be a lady when you can be a legend makes me think about the women that did change history. I was talking with the girls last night and we were, and I love the Kardashians, but I was a little peeved off at Kim for wearing the Marilyn Monroe dress. Why the fuck do you get to wear that? That's history. Marilyn Monroe wore that dress. She looked naked, which was huge controversy back then. And she's singing, Mr. President. And I mean, I think women were sexually confused when they looked at her because she was just so iconic.
I don't know that was the reaction. I think most women were like, what in the actual hell is going on right now? And that's
you can't tell me
women
didn't.
My men seeing that.
Yeah, because it made their trousers rise and they weren't doing that. And I think this is where
women have always been looked as like sex icons. What can Like the value a woman holds is the attention you can gather. Like that shows your value of how many trousers you can rise.
I
Which is
think it gets you in the
disgusting.
door. I think that's what gets you in the door.
Unfortunately, I think we need to be
Unfortunately.
moving. Like I think we're in an era where that we're finally getting past that. That women, we have the ability to create life in our bodies. Men's bodies don't have the ability to do that. Does that make you a woman? No, because there's plenty of women that unfortunately don't have that. They, and that is a whole nother conversation.
Oh my God. The then versus now, keep going. But like, I'm just sitting here thinking about like back in the day, how women had the expectation and were looked down upon if they didn't produce a male. Do you remember those?
Yeah.
That wasn't that long ago.
Yeah.
So like, keep going. But my mind is flooded about the responsibilities that have been put on us. And
Yeah.
for what?
Yeah.
I mean, what is the deciding factor? Because we can carry and make life. We can't make life without a dude, but we do carry the life. We do make sure it like incubates and comes out to be a human and not a duck. I get all that, but like, keep going. It's just a lot of things rise up for that.
Yeah. I mean, I just think that women now, thank goodness, we have women CEOs and really charging forward and becoming so much more than just a sex symbol. And I think that is probably one of there's many hurdles, but one of the very large hurdles that women have had to overcome. Women not being allowed in the military, thank God they are now, but it's like, we're more than just a pretty face. Now women are being listened to for what's going on in their brains. We're not just baby making something pretty to look at. Like it's so much more than that. And I feel like we're in a movement. The Me Too movement was humongous for women. And I think it's more important now than ever of like protecting that and keep it moving forward. And because there has been a lot of progress, but I just don't want to lose that progress.
Yeah, I think that as we go through life, progression is, I mean, that's naturally going to happen, right? Progression in a sense.
I would hope so.
But there's just moments where I think about, I guess I don't want to say selfishly, but I think about how hard it is every day sometimes to just wake up, because we as women have emotions that are driven by our hormones, which now, like then, no one talked about women health. Yeah. There's so much research on a pregnant woman. That's it. There's nothing about menopause or mental illnesses and why do we have them as women. They are different than guys just because they are we have 3 fucking hormones. Now we're talking about,
there's a lot more than 3, but yeah.
But Dr. Mindy Peltz talks about how you can't, fasting like a woman, it's different.
Right, you can't shrink it pink, right? You can't shrink it pink. You can't do research on a man and then just shrink it pink to like fit for a woman. Our bodies are so different.
Yeah, we do so many different things, and we also pee different. Just so everyone knows, we pee sitting down, not standing up. So our body parts are different. And I just don't, so like the then woman wasn't given and speaking of 1923, because there's a lot of good, fruitful stuff in there, her having to get completely undressed so that 4 doctors could look at her.
Whoa, hold on.
And then you couldn't. Okay, I'll stop there. But the feeling was not great, but we had to accept it then. So a lot of shit happened to women back then that we weren't allowed.
Men were also being.
We're not talking about men though. We're talking about the then versus now woman. The then woman had to put up with that. The then woman couldn't say, old doctor put his thumb in my butt. That's not cool. I didn't say it was okay and he didn't ask me. The then woman would be in situations that she wouldn't talk about. She didn't feel she could because she didn't feel she had a platform to talk about it, and would just let stuff like that. would
Oh,
have to
we're
accept stuff
still
like
in
that
Yeah.
happen to her.
Yeah.
We are still in that, but it is starting to come out with the gymnast ladies, the P. Diddy thing.
Thank God.
Thank God. But that's a whole nother layer of a then woman that we had to handle. And I remember from my own personal experiences how angry I would get at other women who had different parents or support systems that recognized or that stuff didn't happen to them like it did me. Why? And we never got to say anything. The then woman didn't have a voice, like someone's doing this to my body and I didn't say it was okay. Someone talks to me like this, or women then would just have to accept whatever treatment they were given, especially by men. They could fight back and forth with women, but I think then they also didn't talk about it amongst each other because it probably was happening to more than just one woman. You know, just going to the doctor and like that doctor visit made me feel violated. Why? But there wasn't any voice then to say, well, you feel that way because that's not supposed to happen.
Yeah.
That was a norm.
Well, I don't think it was even discussed.
Correct.
Yeah.
So the then woman, I think over time, it's a buildup of all of this pent up stuff that happens to us. And then
it's all coming to a head.
Then
and that's where we're at now.
It is coming to a head, but then you've got women like Frida Kahlo who put herself out there rawly as a very sexual person, but she also was handy capable, but she was an artist and she poured her heart and soul out into her art, and her art was so controversial because it was so dark and a woman produced it. Like, we're only supposed to do like flowers and shit. So like there's all these women then who were like, this isn't okay. I've got to stand up for myself. That's where they go down in history. Back to the Marilyn Monroe thing. She was a sexual, I mean, she's just naturally beautiful. Like, she shows up in the world and she's all these things and but she was also like, that was what you saw. That wasn't what she was.
Right.
She was depressed and had turmoil and had to deal with all of these things that women do.
Yeah.
And didn't have a voice to speak it.
So are you saying like it's not very different now?
What
are you saying?
What I'm saying is it's not very much.
I don't know that it is.
I don't think that it's different, but I don't think then a woman could say, this happened to me and it's not okay. I don't think then a woman could say, I was in a relationship for 10 years with this very high profile man, and now I've got to tell you all the things he did to me and all the things that happened to me. That would have never happened then. That probably wouldn't even be a thought that anyone thought they could do, but because I don't think much has changed in the world. We evolve, technology, how we do things, we get faster, all that's evolved. But I feel that women then would not have had the platform to even wear what we're wearing right now, or to show off certain body parts, accentuate, take pictures the way that we do now. And now we can, and we do. And I still don't think that we're at a place, I think we're at a better place now where we do have a voice and we can say, no, I'm not doing that. And we have support and we have a place to go or a phone number that we can call in a crisis.
We have more
to figure that out.
To support each other.
Yeah.
I think that's the biggest difference now then versus now is we're less alone in it.
We're less alone in it. But I'm not sure we have arrived to where we need to be.
No, for sure not. Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah.
And there's lots about just being a woman in general, then and now, that hasn't changed. That's really hard, and it happens daily. Just body image issues.
I don't know that that's. I do believe that the women definitely had body issues. Because there was still that expectation and you know, those are not new issues, but I do think the biggest difference for then versus now is a platform now, a more community. We're able to speak about it. Like we have this, right? You and I can talk about anything that we're going through, where back then women didn't have, it was taboo. There were certain topics you didn't talk about. Of course I have topics we don't discuss in some of my friend groups and stuff, that there's some things that we don't talk about. And then I have a friend like you that I can talk to about every topic. You know, there's nothing off limits. And I do hope that what we're doing today, this podcast, is a community that people feel that they can discuss any topic.
Any fucking topic.
Yeah.
The only thing that's interesting, it's almost a little hurtful that we are still in a place. I don't know. I think if I was the same woman I am now, then I would have been hung. I would have been made an example. I would not have been able to speak the way that I speak now.
No, but you wouldn't, because
I would be dead.
No, but I don't think you would have grown up in a society differently.
Yeah, but I do feel like I have that personality that I would just be like,
push back.
I would push back.
Yeah.
Like, no, fuck you. You're not telling me that. I'm not wearing that. Why would I put something on my body where I can't breathe? I'm not doing that. I would be very combative. I don't think I would be a woman that would conform very easily, and I would just get myself in a lot of trouble. And I probably would have a hard time finding a mate or something, because there's traditions, and what men were expected to marry were also different, and how women had to show up to get, I mean, that was a thing. Like, you wanted to, like, you had to get a man, you had to get married.
But I also don't think that there's some women that liked that, just because, you know what I mean? Like,
to be married and be in the tradition?
Yes.
Absolutely. I'm not throwing anything on that, but you can't say that was not an expectation. And if a woman was in her 20s and not married, then something's wrong with her. I mean, we see that even in Pride and Prejudice, and we see that in Bridgerton. I'm just trying to date back. And then we see that in other shows, and it's like, what's wrong with you? Why are you not married? Why doesn't a man want you? That was a big check mark that you had to do.
I know a handful of women our age, late 30s, early 40s, that are single, and now, and I think that still carries, like, why are you still single? It still happens to this day.
I do agree with that.
Yeah.
But then it was more of a,
you're a nun. You're
unmarriable. Like, now you might as well just go out there and let me shoot you and lay you down with the horse, because you're 25 and you have yet to be married or have sex or bear children or run your own household. What's wrong with you? And so I think women also identify being a woman is about, like, that's where the competition comes from. You have to look good to get the man. You have to be attractive to get the man's eyes. And then once the man and woman are together, well, now that's it. Because marriage, there was no divorce. They didn't talk about that then. That wasn't a thing. You were just like, this is it. And then men played however they played and women played however they played, but everyone thought it was cool. But there was lots of shit going on and no one talked about it. And now we do. It doesn't mean that it's any different, but I feel like even with
evolved, because
the world
has evolved.
Yeah, and like Oprah and Mel Robbins being out there talking about, like, even health with women, and a lot of things that we thought then was, what's wrong with us? Are we not okay? Why do I feel this way in my body? Why am I elevated? I don't know if women were allowed to be elevated back then, if we were allowed to be loud and boisterous and say, I'm not feeling great today.
Are you talking about, like, in the Bridgerton, like 1700s?
No, I'm talking about even in the 60s and 70s, when women had to keep their house nice and they had parties and people were over, and, like, you know, you always had to maintain yourself. I mean, my grandma got up every morning, no matter what her day looked like, and she was ready and dressed to the nines and ready to go. Both of them were, like, and you just were prepared to the day. The house was always nice and tidy. It wasn't something where you could come into a chaotic home then. I feel like
our grandmothers were different.
Yeah, they were very different, but, like, that's how I grew up. But I just think there was societal norms that are put on women that men don't have. And I
They
think
have their own set of
they
those.
do.
Yeah.
Like we can say they don't have to look a certain way, they don't have to do that, but like men, let a guy say I'm a stay-at-home dad and watch that happen. Like that conversation is like, you're a man and you don't work, you stay at home with your kids. What the fuck are you, lady?
Back then.
That would never happen then. Now it's not that normal, but it's starting to become something where that's just a crazy shift. If you talk about the then woman versus now woman, now there are women that if they're
much more balanced.
Yeah, but
hopefully.
or
It's
if they're the
moving in that
breadwinner, they're cool with dad staying home with the kids.
Yeah.
And that's okay. Whatever's good for your family. I think you get to write your own story. But then you couldn't do that because everybody was watching. There was an expectation for everybody. And I think that's still here, but we're a little bit more loose with it. I mean, how can we not be? We've got, people changing their gender. We've got all of these fluid things happening that we're not used to coming to light.
Yeah.
And so those things are becoming more normal. But we still have a ways to go with that.
Yeah. I mean, TBD on where the direction it's all going, but I think families are shifting and I would hope that it still continues in a more accepting in roles that a man or a woman or a man and a man and a woman and a woman or a
people and people.
Just people and people. However their family, they get to choose whatever their family is going to look like. And I just think that, hopefully that we just continue in accepting, and if everybody just takes care of home, take care of what's under your four walls, under your roof, and the world will be a better place. Like, go home and love your family. That's all you need to do. Go home and love your family.
Yeah. It's way more manageable than what the whole world thinks of you.
Yeah. Don't compare.
Yeah.
Take care of your four walls.
I feel like we went all over the place with the then versus now woman, but it was a good conversation.
For sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that it?
Yeah.
That's that?
That's it. That's that.
That's that. Okay.
We need you guys to
subscribe
your asses off, okay?
It helps get our page noticed and get us
updates,
more followers.
Then you know about updates.
Right. So make sure you subscribe so you get notifications every time a new episode launches.
And when a new episode launches, Sarah's going to make out with you. What? That's a win. That's how we get more subscribers. I whore you out.
That is not how we get more subscribers.
I know Josh is going to be so mad at me. My bad.